I don't understand how I can literally debate Matt Walsh on this show about the death penalty. It was a great conversation, and he made some great points and the challenges of how you deal with criminal justice. And it's like I can say 5,000 times I oppose the death penalty, and they take one out of context clip and then just say this proves, no matter what Tim has ever said, that he actually does support the death penalty. I'm like, hold on, man. Like, shouldn't these people be happy that I go on this show whenever we talk about it and say, here's why it's wrong and I don't like the death penalty? But they don't care about any of that. But I digress. Without getting into that, my point was, I think Trump is trying to come off as very strong on this. He's saying he wants the death penalty for migrants that kill Americans because he's signaling to Americans, you matter more.
That's what generally I feel like Trump does. He's
right.
He's kind of the dude in the pub that says what you're thinking, says what everyone's thinking. Nobody wants to say it, and he says it in the harshest kind of way you can to really cut deep and make people go, oh yeah, that's what I'm thinking. We have a massive problem with immigration, and let's just promise we're going to do something about it. But does it really mean he's going to be able to or even try to invoke?
Yeah, I don't see this as a reality. I really don't. I think Trump probably shouldn't have gone there, because what they're trying to do, and they will try to do, is when Trump begins to deport criminal gangs and illegal immigrants, as he should and needs to, this country is already dealing with way too much, they're going to try and use as much World War II imagery as possible to invoke those emotions. Trump's going to have law enforcement arresting a migrant, and then they're going to show it next to a black and white photo of a Jew being rounded up or something like that, and they're going to claim Trump is Hitler 2.0. So him coming out and saying something like this is it's not going to happen. I doubt it will happen. I don't think it should happen, but they're going to use it against him and claim, see, look, he's going to.
When are they going to use it against him? Like now, in the lead up to the election?
Lie,
absolutely, absolutely, and they'll twist it to the most extreme imaginable, and that's kind of what not to make it about myself, but. Again, we go on this show and I will fervently be like, the institution of the death penalty I think is wrong. Here's why. And then it takes one out of context clip for the left to just pretend like I've always.
But does it matter? Like in your case or even in Trump's case, does it matter now if they jump on that? Really?
My point is that there's going to be a lot of people who don't know what Trump is all about. And Democrats are going to take this and they're going to make a commercial saying Donald Trump has vowed to become a dictator and kill migrants. That's what they're going to say. And then Trump can't sue for defamation because they're going to play the semantic game, and then they're going to use that as fear mongering to manipulate people. I don't know if they go that far, but people are going to say that stuff already.
What was his quote exactly? Did you catch it in the post-millennial?
Well, let's see. Here you go.
I'm announcing today that upon taking office, we will have an Operation Aurora at the federal level. To expedite the removals of these savage gangs, and I will invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. Think of that. 1798. This was put there. 1798. That's a long time ago, right?
Yeah, it was.
To target and dismantle every migrant criminal network operating on American soil. Who would have ever thought that a president or a future president would ever have to stand here and say such things? Who would think that that's even possible to have to do? So many things are changed in the last 4 years, but that's the state of our country now after Kamala and Joe Biden have just absolutely destroyed our country. We're a country in tremendous distress. We're a failing country. We're laughed at all over the world. We will send elite squads of ICE, Border Patrol, and federal law enforcement officers to hunt down, arrest, and deport every last illegal alien gang member until there is not a single one left in this country. And if they come back into our country, they will be told it is an automatic 10-year sentence in jail with no possibility of parole.
Wow.
And I'm hereby calling for the death penalty for any migrant that kills an American citizen or a law enforcement officer.
You're those cheers, man.
That's just, he's basically saying any migrant that is convicted of murder.
That's right. Yeah, so I disagree with the death penalty for a lot of reasons. We don't need to get into that debate. But do you hear the cheering for that statement? Look, man, I got to tell you. I'm going to tell you a story. I lived in Florida. I was down in the Redlands, just outside of Miami, and it gives you perspective. We lived in this 5-acre property. We had one night where we were all hanging out. I don't know if it was like midnight or something. We were making pizzas when all of a sudden we saw, it's a 5-acre property, so it was narrow. It goes back pretty far. Somebody with a light jumped the fence, a 6-foot fence covered in vines and trees and coconuts and whatever else. Somebody jumped in, and we had heard stories that there were home invasions and murders already. And so that's like a big wake-up call. So some other stuff happened there. I'll wrap that up. That's kind of the point. Seeing something like that, we had heard from the neighbors that there was a home invasion and some guy was murdered. He was upstairs in his taking a shower. He gets out of the shower and he hears rustling. So he walks down the stairs in his towel, and on the stairs, they just point a gun, boom, kill him, shot him in the chest. And sure enough, you ask the locals, who were these guys? Illegal immigrants. They were illegal immigrants who came here, and they're robbing his house, take his stuff, and they killed him. And I thought to myself, this is why people who are in rural and conservative areas, or rural areas are more conservative. You don't have police a minute away. And a minute maybe even be too long in some of these cities as well. But I went to a Trump rally, and I was talking to a woman who was an independent voter. She had never voted before. This was in Fort Lauderdale, where Trump was doing a rally. And then she told similar stories, that she was not really political, didn't care all that much, but then someone she knew was killed by an illegal immigrant.
Can I ask you, does your argument against death penalty also apply to a non?
Yes.
He's not talking about he's talking about non-citizens.
Yeah. No,
the government couldn't abuse it against American citizens.
I already have a problem with U.S. drone strikes and all of these things, right? So if we're all going to, but I'm not so naive to say that in wartime and defense people don't die, and it's I told Matt Walsh.
But imagine the deterrent. Like, do
I don't
you think you're
so.
going to get many gang members coming here and returning and then committing murder?
The 10-year prison sentence with no possibility of parole is a bold statement, if you can pull that off. Death penalty would probably only scare non-criminals, illegal immigrants. So I think a lot of the gangs...
Is that not good as well?
I think deterrent is good. I don't like the institution. And there is an interesting point about we want the message of if you commit a crime of an atrocity, and they're very extreme crimes that must be committed, like regular murder doesn't qualify, then you will be put to death. We want that to, as a message to people, like you'll pay the ultimate price if you dare cross us. The challenge there is, of course, I think the institution is flawed and is bad, and I don't like it. There's a big argument there. But I understand the point that at the inverse is if you outright say we will do nothing, you end up with Chicago. And so I'm not advocating for the death penalty in any sense of the imagination. I'm saying that we had Michael Franzese on the show. He's a former captain in one of the crime families. They call it crime families. He said the family. He said we shouldn't call it the crime family. And I asked him if this country was better off with the mafia. And the reason why is I said, you see these videos of these guys smashing a car into a bodega, running in and just robbing everything? These videos of two guys going and just beating a shop clerk and stabbing him, and then he stabs him back. If the families were still in charge, would that happen? And he's like, no, it would never happen. We would never allow that. And it's funny. When you have the mafia in charge, there's order. Why? Because the mafia doesn't want to lose money. But these roving bands of gangs do whatever they want. So I'm not advocating for the mafia, but it's a fair point to say when the mafia was shaking down bodegas for protection money, they could certainly use some protection now, and they're not getting it. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.